Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show. The Mandalorian is a new Star Wars TV show. It's been on Disney Plus for a few weeks now, if you're lucky enough to live in the US, or you know how to work a VPN and have a MasterCard. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Grumpy Opinions. It really helps me out, especially if you do that and then you subscribe and click the wee bell thing here. Chapter 6. The Prisoner starts off with Mandy arriving at a space station run by Bobby from Sons of Anarchy. And he's got a job on the sly for Mandy to make a few bucks and all that. And it turns out that a dude of his is a prisoner on a ship somewhere and he needs to get sprung.
With an itty-bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung.
No, not like that. It's a kid's show. Christ. Anyway, Bobby has put a team together and it's Bill Burr, the Kurgan, Moss from the IT crowd, and Tonks from Harry Potter. No, really, I mean, honestly, yay for stunt casting on this episode. Anyway, they're all going to go on the mission with Mandy, and despite an awful lot of pranking and other stuff where it makes you wonder why he just doesn't put locks on the inside of his ship, ever. And then suddenly they're into the mission, so, forget them finding Yoda and threatening to take off Mando's helmet and all the roughhousing and that, or even this comedy stage whisper. It's on with the job. And Bill Burr does his bit for men's health and gym memberships, and while they're being directed by Robo Ritchie, the team makes their way to the ship's control room, and there's a wee bit shooting with some bad droids in the way, but the rest of them kind of let Mandy do his thing, and he's got some issues with machine people, clearly. And they get to the room and oops, turns out there was actually a human there all along and they didn't think there was. And it turns into a classic Mexican standoff because he doesn't want to give up his gun, but they kind of want to kill him, but they kind of don't want to let him know, but then they do. And it's all kind of discount Star Wars Tarantino. And then Tonks gets tired of all the boys shouting, so she does a wee knife throw that frankly everyone should have seen coming about 2 minutes beforehand. But that sets off a ticking clock, as the New Republic alarm the guy set off is going to bring the law down on everybody. So after that it's double time to the prison cell, where they let out this guy. And I actually don't know who this guy is, I've not seen him in anything else. Apparently he was in Mary's Queen of Scots. I mean, he's good though, he's fine, but he's just not got total geek cred like the rest of the cast. Anyway, in a shocking twist, the gang kick Mandy into the cell because, that's what they would do. And because he's not a moron, and because the show deliberately kept the geography of the ship really vague, he manages to break out in record time, backtrack to the control centre and take the ship over from Robo Ritchie. Of course. And then Robo Ritchie gets distracted by Bobby Yodz and plays hide and shoot in the face with him. And naturally, Mandy does the cool thing and takes out each of the gang members one by one in a different way. And then he meets the prisoner dude back at the lad at the ship. But the dude reminds him that he was actually hired to rescue him, so unless he's going to go against his code, he still has to take him away with him. So the next thing we see, the Robo's cornered Bobby Yodz and inexplicably is about to shoot him for reasons. Luckily, he has the Force, and even if he didn't, Mandy shoots the droid dead anyway. So back at the station, Bobby's all like, yeah, whatever, when Mandy hands over just the rescued guy and nobody else, but he happily pays up. And then as soon as Mandy's flown away, he tells one of his dudes to fly after him and shoot him. But as the fighter's spinning up its engines, suddenly Tentacle Guy realises he's got something in his pockets.
What has it got in its pockets?
That's no concern of yours.
Oh no, it's the beacon. And like the clockwork tick of bad writing, suddenly 3 X-Wings warp into the system and start shooting the space station a hell of a lot. And then Mandy and Yodz fly away, off to fight another day. Or something, I don't know. So what did I think? Well, I thought this week was really cool. I mean, in the way that it had Bill Burr in it, and I absolutely love Bill Burr. He's a really funny guy. He's really humble, and he's kind of been mentioning for months on his podcast that he landed a gig in this. And despite being a guy with 3 specials on Netflix, a bunch of film appearances, and a recurring role in Breaking Bad, he seemed to be just totally over the moon about getting into acting and doing well. Yeah, anyway, it was great seeing him in this. And he's kind of just playing himself, but that was kind of fun. And also, the guy from Sons of Anarchy. I mean, he's kind of playing the same character he played in that as well, but, it's good to see him. And you've got Richard Ayoade, or I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, he was the droid, and he's the guy from, the IT crowd, which is a fun watch. Although his character can get a bit grating than that, but if you ever see him in Garth Marenghi, totally watch that. It's really good. There's only 6 episodes. And it's really nice to see Clancy Brown and Natalie Tenya turning up and stuff. I mean, I haven't really seen her much since Game of Thrones, and I mean, Clancy's been in just about everything from literally since Highlander. Good guy. And I also loved the design of the robots. They were a lot of fun, especially the bit where Clancy took out the big shooty gun droids. I mean, that was just a bit of a giggle. But yeah, you might want to strap in because this part's going to get a bit messy. You see, on the other hand, this week frankly blew me away about how horribly predictable it was. I mean, literally from the second that the story began, you knew pretty much what was going to happen. I mean, maybe you didn't know the identity of the prisoner, because that could have been anything. That could have actually been something really interesting. It could have been a character from before. It could be a famous Star Wars character. It could be something relating to the overall story arc. But no, it's just a character we know nothing about. We get a vague hint of backstory between the two, and then, he's presumably killed off at the end of the episode. And then, we've got like this crew of bad guys, and sure, they're like non-guild merc types, and there's no honor amongst thieves. But I mean, when they turn on Mandy, that was such an obvious gambit that, I mean, if he was really as good in this line of business, he'd have totally known this was going to happen and wouldn't have gotten himself into that situation the first time. And there's a whole load of wee problems in this episode. I mean, as well as the fact that it was so generic. I mean, why couldn't the robot guy who was tracking everybody down by life signs scan that there was another person? I mean, he should have noticed that, surely. He's a robot. He should have been able to see that there was somebody else on the ship who was alive. I mean, also, if he could redirect the robots away to something else, why didn't he do that right at the beginning so they had a clear run to where they were going? And also, right, why was he trying to shoot Bubby Yodz? I mean, did he not realise that there was a good bounty on taking him in alive? And the fact that he could find that message, I mean, that kind of does that not point out that Mandy really should like have a password on his like email or whatever, as well as locks on the doors? I mean, he's so crap at this sort of thing. I know it's his ship, but other people are on the ship so bloody often it seems ridiculous. And also the rebellion guys at the end, the guys from New Rebellion, they literally arrive at the system, see like that's where the beacon came from, and they just start shooting. I mean, what if actually it was somebody on board that needed help and the fighter was them trying to escape and they just blew them up? I mean, it's crazy. Who are these guys? I mean, we don't know much about the New Rebellion, but honestly, it seems a bit crazy. And weren't they already on the way to the prison ship? I mean, the whole point about that was like the wee beacon was drawing them towards there. So does that mean if you destroy the beacon or like you drop it out the airlock or something, does that send a new signal if you reactivate it? And if so, when did Mandy do that? I mean, it was never established that that's how this stuff works. So that presumably means he must have been able to turn it off. Or can you just keep turning it on forever and off and it will send a new signal? It didn't make any sense to me. And how come he can take out like 8 prison guard robots really easily with no problem? And before that, the rest couldn't even seem to damage them. And he's back to like Bruce Lee sort of ninja skill levels of fighting and stealth. I mean, honestly, the bit where he takes out Bill Burr, I mean, remember, this is exactly the same guy that got completely like taken out and jumped by the girl from Haywire a couple of weeks ago in that episode, just like wandering through an alleyway. I mean, it seems to just be whatever the scene needs on the day is whatever happens. And also, I like Natalie Tenya, but she was completely wasted in this total pantomime role, and I frankly didn't even realise it was even her. I mean, wow, what's up with the show? It started out so good, but it's now turned into a total cliche fest with really obvious writing. And I know I've said that before, it's basically a live-action cartoon. But if this is how Disney is going to be making Star Wars from now on, then I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm maybe about out of it. I mean, it also makes me kind of worried, even more than I am now, for The Rise of the Skywalker, which comes out literally this week. I mean, they sold this particular show on the idea that what if it was a spaghetti western in Star Wars, but they didn't say it was going to basically be the plot of every single bad spaghetti western film just slapped with a bit of Star Wars paint and left to go mouldy. I mean, not only that, but this is like episode 6 of 8. We've only got 2 more episodes till the end of the season, and this was another filler episode. I mean, Mandy hasn't gained anything other than a couple of quid in his pocket. He'd never learned anything useful, and the audience barely learned like a thing, other than that the show likes to waste great talent in wee cameos every single week. Ugh. Now, I'm sure that next week, as I've said before, will be a big 2-part cliffhanger. I mean, I bet it will be. And they're putting out the episodes on strange days next week. So yeah, and the next one's on Wednesday, i.e., like tomorrow or even today, depending when I get this episode out. And then the last one of the season's in a couple of days after Christmas. So, I mean, yeah, at least it's a break over the Christmas holiday. And I might do a video on the new movie if I have time, but considering I'm already behind with his Dark Materials and I've not done this one yet, and I was thinking about doing a video on the new Outlander, like the first episode of season 5. They did that little clip they released. But anyway, I'll see how it goes. So until next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions.